Dock workers and port operators reach a wage agreement ending the largest work stoppage in nearly 50 years. The European Union presses ahead with Chinese electrical vehicles tariffs after a split vote. And Moody's expects Saudi Arabia's non-oil company to grow between 5 and 5.5% from 2025 to 2027. You're watching Q News, and this is the Economic Bulletin, where we deliver comprehensive coverage and expert insights into key updates on the pivotal economic trends and financial shifts influencing the global economic scene. And we'll start off with the United States. New orders for U.S. manufactured goods fell in August, while business spending on equipment decreased in the third quarter. U.S. factory orders unexpectedly declined by 0.2% in August, following a revised 4.9% increase in July. Despite this, the U.S. Census Bureau said that factory orders have shown a 0.3% year-on-year increase. The government also reported that orders for non-defense capital goods increased by 0.3% in August compared to the previously reported 0.2%. Aircrafts are seen as a measure of equipment business spending plans and are excluded from the increase. The U.S. services sector surged to a 1.5-year high in September. The Institute for Supply Management reported that its non-manufacturing PMI climbed to 54.9 from 51.5 in August. The Institute attributed the service sector's growth to a sharp increase in new orders. The growth makes up more than 2/3 of the U.S. economy. However, the sector's employment dropped to 48.1 from 50.2 in August, consistent with a slowdown in the labor market. The unemployment claims rose marginally last week, with 6,000 more Americans filing new applications for benefits. This brings the total to a seasonally adjusted 225,000 for the week ending in September 28th. The Labor Department attributed this increase to the effects of Hurricane Helene in the southeast and ongoing strikes at Boeing and various U.S. ports. The U.S. Treasury has announced that more than 30 million taxpayers across 24 states will be eligible to file federal taxes for free in 2025. They can do so through the IRS's expanded direct file system. This move is part of the Biden administration's efforts to lower costs for consumers. It could save taxpayers tens of millions of dollars in tax preparation fees. The pilot program, launched earlier this year, was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Next year's version will expand to cover more income types, credits, and deductions.
The strike halting U.S. ports along the eastern Gulf Coast has been called off after the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance reached a tentative wage agreement. Tens of thousands of dock workers have returned to work, restoring operations that were disrupted since Tuesday. The 6-year tentative deal includes a 62% wage increase, which falls short of the union's initial demand of 77%. The agreement also extends the current contract until January 15, 2025, allowing both parties to continue negotiations on unresolved issues, including the union's push for a ban on port automation. The dock workers' strike, the first in nearly 50 years, threatened to disrupt the U.S. supply chain with the holiday season and the presidential election approaching. Ports from Maine to Texas had come to a standstill, leaving over 45 ships waiting to unload and raising concerns about price hikes and shortages for essential goods. Despite the resolution on wages, the agreement offers only temporary relief, as negotiations on other issues, particularly automation, are set to resume in the coming months.
And joining us today to discuss the impact of the dock workers' wage agreement with port operators and its effect on the American economy is the economic analyst, Dr. Ahmed Aboud. Welcome to the Economic Bulletin, Dr. Aboud. First off, now, what are the long-term effects that might the strike have on the availability of the pricing of goods?
Good evening, and good evening to you and to your it's a massive issue, to be honest. This is a very important and critical issue. It's kind of significant loss that was expected for the USA economy and globally as well. Indeed, the initial evaluation of the potential expected loss for this strike was about $5 billion per day for the USA economy. And not just only the U.S. economy, it's a global issue because it's kind of, struggle with the supply chain globally because this kind of ports are not just shipping, the basic goods and services, also shipping everything to deal with the production, and factories across the globe, from, basic goods and services to, parts of the cars and everything. It was expecting, also increasing the prices of basic goods and services if this was continuing. But, we all lucky that has been sorted out with the agreement that has been taking place recently.
Well, the 62% wage increase agreed upon by dock workers falls short of the union's initial demand of 77%. Now, could this affect the worker satisfaction and lead to future disruptions in negotiations?
I think that we consider, the negotiation process generally. We always start with, high demand, and always the government try to, reach to an optimal scenario when they, increase the salaries and the wages, and at the same time not offering 72. 72 is a massive increase. And reaching to this, a percent is also reasonable and accepted by the unions as well. So, the 70, the rate is 72 is not really 77. It was, expectations and a way to put pressure on the government. But at the end of the day, they accept, the offered rate over the coming years until the end of the contract in 2025. But again, if this thing is happening again, it's always massive and significant losses was expected.
Dr. Aboud, now, given the ongoing debate over automation in ports, how do you foresee this issue playing out in future labor negotiations? What would widespread port automation mean for the industry and the employment, the labor? The word automation has been, always will be around for discussion and debate. With this, new technology going on everywhere and the advancement of the technology every day, you can see, the development of the technology every day brings something new for the automation. And the automation process is not something that's really first time to introduce. It has been there for a while. And it always, will come with a risk for the labor, and also will come with benefit for the government. But I don't think this is something that we should be worried about in the near future, because there's no really clear, clear strategy about the scale of the automation and how this would be, will be happening, and what stages would be implemented at the moment, or what the government has to automate. Are it partially automating? Is it fully automated? And I think, automation is not a bad thing for the industry. It's somehow that will improve the efficiency, of moving things forward and easily. But also it will affect the labor and will affect the job opportunities
and that's why we always have have a chance of balancing things. We need automation, but also we need to keep the jobs going on.
Well, the holiday season approaching and the presidential election on the horizon now. How critical was it to reach this agreement now?
Well, I mean, if every party will see this as the democracy as a good thing. They have achieved something, and they can claim the right for this, and they can keep moaning about it during the coming days that we have achieved this, we have reached the agreement. So it's always in favor of the government, the current government to claim the credit that we have sorted out this problem and we have secured the process. Because there's a direct implication for this. If you think about this, it would have a direct impact of everyone. Consumer prices. I was expecting that to increase in the basic goods and service, and in a direct way. If this strike has been extended for a while, for more days, we're going to see a direct impact on the price of the essential, including bread and basic stuff, and this would hurt everyone. And if this was there would be a very negative point for the current government. That's why the government was, having to quickly finish the negotiation, finish the negotiations and offer the 62% increase, and they are happy with it because it's a critical time for the current government.
Mm-hmm. So there is no fear of any future strikes of the same nature, because one can only imagine the broader economic consequences of a prolonged strike.
Yeah, I mean, what's been seen this happening in Europe for recently in the last few years, and the consequences was very bad for citizens as well as for the government as well as for the economy. And the issue about the supply chain. Now we are in a very open economy, and the supply chain is globally. It's not really something that's going to affect only the USA. It's a global supply chain that we are talking about. You imagine there are 36 of the ports are not working, including the major ones in New York and major ones. And there's lots of ships that are struggling there. There is no chance of uploading or uploading these ships, and it was catastrophic if this has been continued for a while.
Mm-hmm. The economic analyst Dr. Ahmed Aboud, thank you very much for your invaluable insights. And moving on, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates, inaugurated the Ras Al Hikmah Development Project. The event was attended by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, along with prominent business leaders from both Egypt and the UAE. During the launch, the leaders viewed a presentation outlining the project's objectives, components, and the significant economic investment, real estate, tourism, and environmental benefits. They also received insights into the region's advantages, integrated services, and the developmental and economic opportunities the project will offer. Additionally, several Egyptian and Emirati companies signed contracts to commence work on the project. The two leaders also witnessed the formation of partnerships among several global, Egyptian and Emirati companies aimed at fostering innovation in the electric smart vehicle sector across the Middle East and North Africa. In Europe, the European Commission confirmed that it will proceed with plans to impose significant tariffs on Chinese-made electrical vehicles, despite opposition from Germany, which has exposed divisions within the EU regarding trade relations with China. The proposed tariffs, which could reach up to 45%, are set to take effect next month and are intended to counter what the European Union views as unfair Chinese subsidies following a year-long investigation. India's services sector growth slowed to a 10-month low in September. The final India Service Purchasing Managers Index fell to 57.7, down from 60.9 in August and below the preliminary estimate of 58.9. The new business sub-index fell to its lowest level since November, but stayed above its historical average. International demand increased at the slowest rate of the year, hiring activity picking up slightly, extending job creation to over 2 years. Cost inflation rose, but firms passed on increased costs to clients at the slowest pace since February 2022. The International Monetary Fund announced reaching an agreement with Ghanaian authorities for a third review of the country's $3 billion loan program. Ghana, a West African producer of gold and cocoa, is close to finalizing a debt restructuring process under the G20's Common Framework Initiative after defaulting on much of its $30 billion of international debt in 2022. The IMF noted that the program's performance has been generally satisfactory. Once the fund's executive board review is completed, which will be scheduled at a later date, Ghana will gain access to $360 million in financing. Moving to the MENA region, the Egyptian Minister of Planning and Economic Development and International Cooperation, Rania Mashat, said that a European technical mission is currently visiting Cairo to conduct a review in preparation for the release of a $2.9 billion development funding. The minister highlighted that this funding is expected to be dispersed next December as part of a European agreement. Al-Mashat confirmed that a delegation from the International Monetary Fund will visit Cairo next month for a new review of Egypt's ongoing economic reform program. Furthermore, she added that Egypt will actively participate in the IMF's periodic meetings scheduled for this month. The Central Bank of Egypt showed that Egypt's foreign direct investment inflows rose to a record $46.1 billion in the fiscal year 2023-2024, compared to $10 billion in the past year. Moody's expected Saudi Arabia's non-oil economy to grow between 5 and 5.5% from 2025 to 2027, higher than the 4.6% average in 2022-2023. Moody's noted that the government's sustained spending, projected to remain around 30 to 32% of GDP, will be critical to supporting non-oil economic growth. However, risks such as declining oil prices could affect fiscal stability, making the Public Investment Fund crucial in mitigating challenges. These are all the economic news we have for now, and here's a roundup of today's key headlines. Dock workers and port operators reach a wage agreement, ending the largest work stoppage in nearly 50 years. The European Union presses ahead with the Chinese electrical vehicles tariffs after a split vote.